Click that like if you're smiling today. Give a follow to help spread the play. Share the play with friends everywhere, so more can laugh and show they care. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide. Join Bcome ride worldwide. Tap that bell so you never miss a dose of love and endless bliss. YouTube and others, search my name, Bcome. Let's grow this flame. Thanks for the support, you're the best crew. Now go tell the world you know what to do. Bcome. Like if you're smiling today. Give a follow to help spread the play. Share the joy with friends everywhere, so more can laugh and show they care. Let's grow this flame.
Hey, it's me, Bcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I hope you're all well. Hope life's treating you kindly. Life can be bitch sometimes, can't it? Well, I hope you're all well anyway. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting my channel. Even just by watching, you're supporting my channel, but please, if you want to support it a little bit more, leave your DNA on the like button for this video, put your fingerprint on the subscribe button, press the notifications, and maybe share, comment. Those are free ways you can support my channel. Not 3 ways, free ways, gratis. No dinero, no money involved in those ways of supporting my channel. But a big thank you to those of you who support my channel that little bit more, those of you who become members, those of you who send Ko-fis, etc., and support me in those very important ways as well. Thank you. PayPal me. There's lots of different ways people support me. Thank you so much. So what we're going to talk about in this video is we're looking at, it's sort of the Nancy Guthrie case, because we are going to talk about Sheriff Nanos. So this sheriff, I mean, unfortunately, all the palaver over Nanos, who is the Pima County Sheriff, has sort of overshadowed it. Well, say overshadowed the Nancy Guthrie case. We're not getting any developments. You know, it's all chatter what we're getting about the Nancy Guthrie case. Just, you know, lots of different experts who used to work for the FBI or used to be this or used to be that. We've got them all giving us the benefit of their experience, which is useful. I'm not saying it's not interesting or useful, but it's nothing concrete, is it, in the actual case? We've got nothing concrete to work on, have we? And there's also been this distraction. I think if anything good comes out of this case, it maybe will be the removal of this man, but we'll see what happens. So this is the sheriff of Pima County. It turns out, you know, we do feel that he's dealt with it all wrong right from the beginning, the whole case. And anyway, because of the high profile nature of the Nancy Guthrie case, although the things that Sheriff Nanos is accused of, I mean, so he's accused of some quite serious things, lying on his resume about being suspended 8 times from a previous position, bullying his, you know, using nepotism and, you know, intimidating his workforce, etc. He's being accused of some very serious things, apart from the, you know, nothing in this statement I'm going to read out to you. It's nothing about Nancy Guthrie case. It's not about Nancy Guthrie case in that sense. But I think it is the Nancy Guthrie case that has brought Sheriff Nanos's failings, you know, to our attention, and has invoked this worldwide attention on Pima County, which I don't know about you, but I'd never even heard of it before. You know, I've heard of Tucson, obviously, and I know Arizona, and you know, but Pima County, you could have said to me about Pima County, you know, at the beginning of January this year, before poor Nancy got abducted. I would have said where. I wouldn't have had a clue where it was. Now everybody knows where Pima County is. Everybody knows about Sheriff Nanos. As I say, not only in Arizona, not only in America, and then Canada, or, you know, outlying areas, but all over the world, here in Spain, you know, and my followers are from all over the world. You know, it might be a small channel, but my followers are from Australia, Canada, America, Britain, Ireland, Spain, Europe, you know. So people know now about Pima County, but it's not a good knowledge, is it? You don't want your area, your sheriff, you don't want it to be known for for negative reasons. You want to be known for positive reasons. So this man, Sheriff Nanos, he has contributed to that by his mishandling of the case, many things. We're not going to go into those in particular about Nancy Guthrie. We're going to look at the accusations levelled at him. Apart from Nancy Guthrie case, there's an attempt to remove him. He's an elected official. He's elected. He's got another good few years left yet. So he can't just be removed because he's not an employee in that sense, where, you know, the police department can remove him. He's been elected, so he has to be removed in a certain way. You know, they're collecting signatures. They have to, and then even if there's enough signatures collected, then Sheriff Nanos, he decides then, let's suppose enough signatures are collected to recall him, to remove him. Well, then he has the choice to either step down voluntarily. I don't think there's a cat in hell's chance that this man is ever going to step down voluntarily. Or he can call like a snap election. So there would be another election, and then he could get in again, you know. Now, he only got in by the skin of his teeth in the last election, despite accusations of fiddling with the election by removing his one of the people running against him, bullying her. She's now moved to another department. These are the accusations that are against Sheriff Nanos. They've got to be proven, of course. So yeah, that's the way it could go. If enough signatures are collected, he will be offered the opportunity to either stand down or call another election. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, there's no guarantee yet. I mean, it's a long, complicated process, so that there's no guarantee that he will get recalled. But he's certainly never going to step down, I don't think. It's just not in this man's nature. He can't even say he's sorry for saying the wrong thing, or, anyway. So this is Sheriff Nanos, and that's we're going to. Well, I'm going to read out his statement. Anyone who wants to ever join in, you can join in. I can put the invitation in the chat. I think a lot of you maybe don't want to join in, but you can, and you don't have to show your face. You can come in and say your bit with pleasure. So yeah, in fact, shall I put that in the chat now? And then if I put it in the chat, let's see if I can do it easily. And that'll give me the chance to come into the chat and say hello to anybody who is here. So, hello, Daniel. Hello, Clad Queen. Yeah, he doesn't need to step down, but as you say as well, you agree, he's never going to step. I can't see it, not unless he got ill. So this guy, we're going to look, first of all, we're going to look at a short video that, let me take the banner off now as well. We're going to look at a short video that someone that I follow on Twitter, Criminal Network, put up, and he'll give us an insight into this guy. Now, one thing I must say, he's not young. He's well into his 70s. I don't know if he's in his late 70s. He obviously has looked after himself. He goes to the gym every day. And it shows, you can't, to be fair, he's a fit guy, especially for his age. He's a fit guy for any age, to be honest. I think you can see that he looks after himself. But you know what? He will be his first priority, won't he? He will be his first priority, that's for sure. So anyway, you can see he looks after himself. But we're going to look at a video that on X that will give us it's only a very short video, only a couple of minutes, but I think it's very interesting for the character of Sheriff Nanos. And then I'm going to read out his reply. So it's quite long. So just to tell you that, you may get bored, or you may just put it on in the background. I'm going to try and not comment on it too much, just read it out. I will comment every now and again, but otherwise it will get too long, the video. But I think it's interesting. Again, there's some bits are more interesting than others. I've read most of it. There's bits at the end I haven't quite got to. I'll try and read out the most relevant bits, maybe not read out all the, or I might read it all out. We'll see how it goes, because the trouble is, you want to, if you're thinking, oh, I'll read out the relevant bits, but you may miss one that doesn't seem relevant at the moment, but might seem relevant in the future. So I know a lot of you out there, from things that I've read out before, statements and like inquests and stuff like that. People quite like me to read things out. Some people don't want to sit and read something, they prefer somebody read it out to them so that they can just listen while they're doing something, and then play it again as well, if they want to just make sure, see if they've missed anything. So it's for those people. Some people might not be interested in that, and I understand that, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. But I think all of you will be interested in this first little snippet video. I mean, it literally is just a couple of minutes long. I thought it gives us an interesting insight into the mind or the personality of Sheriff Nanos. So of course, usual computer working slowly. Oh my God, can't wait to throw this computer away, to be honest, when I finally can get a new one. Every time I get near there for getting a new one, something happens. Anyway, today's the day I've got to get my car sorted out. Anyway, I'll be doing that later. Oh, where's it gone? I had it all set up. You know, you set things up and they disappear, but anyway, it'll be here somewhere. There he is. It's just something about Sheriff Nanos. I don't know. But anyway, that's not the video. I've got to go down a bit further for the video. Where is it? So this is Criminal Network. He's got YouTube channels. He's a streamer. He's quite often outside Nancy's house. He gets a lot of stick, as all the streamers do, from the neighbours. But do you know what? To me, I just think the neighbours that are out there all the time complaining to the streamers, it's a shame they weren't a bit more vigilant when the night Nancy went missing, isn't it? You know, it's like every 5 minutes they're calling the police, wasting police resources. You know, these streamers, they're not doing anything illegal, first of all. Oh, here it is. They're not doing anything illegal. You know, they're outside in the street. They've stopped them parking there, so they don't park there anymore. They're always respectful to the neighbours and things. And, you know, the neighbours are out there every 5 minutes complaining. And then the police come, like, and, you know, waste resources and what have you. The police should be saying to these neighbours now, look, they've got every right to be there. Just stop phoning us and complaining. And, you know, where were those neighbours on the night that Nancy, an 84-year-old woman, was stolen from her bed and nobody noticed anything? And suddenly now the neighbours are all over anybody who's out there. It's, I think it's ridiculous, personally. Whatever you think of the streamers, you know, and it's, to me, the streamers, it's like everybody on YouTube. You watch people, and sometimes you enjoy the video they do. You'll be the same with me. There'll be videos you'll watch of mine, think, oh, I enjoyed that, it was good. And then there'll be other times think, oh, I'm not really interested in that, or I didn't really agree with what she said there. That's it. You know, YouTubers are there doing their thing. Sometimes you'll enjoy what they're doing. Sometimes you won't enjoy what they're doing. But, you know, they've still got every right to do it. You know, either you believe in the freedom of people or you don't. You can't say, oh, yeah, we believe in freedom, but not in this streamer can't stand on a public road and film. That's what they're doing. That's the way of the world now. Social media does that, you know. And honestly, the police should be turning to the neighbours now and saying, just stop ringing us. They're there. We've stopped them parking there. You know, but we can't stop them standing on a public street. You know, just tell these neighbours. And these neighbours, you know, I know it'd be annoying. It'd be annoying to have somebody there filming you every time you drive past. Well, don't drive past and give them stuff to film then. Thing is, a lot of the time, the streamers, they're part of their content is the disputes with the neighbours. So the neighbours are actually giving them content or something to talk about. You know, just haven't these neighbours got anything better to do? I mean, I do think that's a problem. Of course, a lot of the neighbours, they are elderly people too. You'd think they'd be glad of somebody hanging around. You know, seeing how one of their neighbours has just been abducted in the middle of the night. Oh my God, just like, and they're getting angry with streamers. They should be getting angry with people who descend in their neighbourhood and rob them and abduct them. They're the people they should be angry with. And it's time the sheriff's office turned around to them and said, stop ringing us. stop ringing us unless they actually do something illegal. You know, that's what they need to do. Anyway, so let's have a look at this video. Let me just see if I've missed anyone coming in. Yeah. Well, hi, Mark. Thing is, Clad Queen, what can they arrest him for? What can they arrest him for? What is he doing that's illegal? He's not doing anything illegal. Are they just going to arrest him just because he's? Because I've watched that guy, and so that he's black, isn't he? That's another thing. Those neighbours, that neighbourhood, you know, it seems like a predominantly white neighbourhood. So it's like, why they're picking on it? I just don't see what you're going to arrest someone for. You know, what's going to be the reason? I hope they do arrest him in a way, and then I hope he turns around and sues them, because you can't arrest someone just for being on the road, etc. Can you? Terrible. Yeah, that Sue Ellen, I've heard about her. Yeah. It's just, you know, get a life. Get a life. Just accept the fact they didn't kidnap Nancy. It's not their fault Nancy was kidnapped, and this is a massive sort of global story that people want, a crime story that people want to know what happened to Nancy. It's not their fault. You know, save your anger for the people that kidnapped her, for God's sake. Drives me mad, you know. And I say, it doesn't matter what you think of the streamers. I'm not saying that I like this streamer particularly or that one not, or what. It's nothing to do with that. The thing is, it is their legal right to do that. And either you believe in that or you don't. You can't say you believe in legal rights, but only when it suits you. Either you believe in them or you don't. And that's your sheriff's department. You're wasting their resources. They've got bloody crime, overload of crime there in Tucson and around that area. And they don't want to be wasting their time. Sometimes they send, you know, 1 or 2 or even 3 deputies out. Couldn't they be better placed, you know, actually solving crimes, like, rather than just going around telling YouTubers to move on or whatever? Anyway, don't get me started. So look, this is Criminal Network, their X, and I follow them on X because they have interesting things. Again, I don't agree with everything Criminal Network says or does. No YouTuber that I watch, I agree with everything. That's impossible because we're all individuals. But I do like, you know, they put up some very interesting things. If you're interested in the Nancy Guthrie case, they're concentrated on it. They're determined, you know. So yeah, so that's why I follow them. But anyway.
It'll be here a while. Stay here with the rest. And jump. Yeah.
He's a little man, isn't he? I mean, he's definitely got little man syndrome. I'm just going to put that at the beginning again, because when he's coming out of his office here with his little backpack, well, he's probably off to the gym, I don't know, but it reminded me of Frodo Baggins going off in The Hobbit, like going off on this journey. Sorry, I don't mean, you know, I'm not trying to insult him, but having said that, I do find him irritating. At the end of the day, he's in that position. He wanted to be in that position, so he's going to get attention. He's done a lot of things wrong. He doesn't take responsibility for anything. He doesn't apologize for anything. So I don't feel bad. But that's what, when I saw him coming out with a little backpack, I was instantly reminded of Frodo Baggins in The Hobbit.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Chris Nanos.
But yeah, he's got good muscles. I mean, he's very, very informed for his age, isn't he? Or for any age. I mean, you know, you can tell that he looks after himself.
You're gonna be here a while.
Stay here with the rest.
And jump.
Yeah. Get him hurt. No, got that on tape too.
It was above the belt, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, even better.
I mean, really, what is this video about, though? You know, like, what is he trying to show? To me, it just shows how ego-driven he is. So I just don't know. It's all about him, isn't it? I mean, why is he not talking about what he's doing for Bcome County? To me, Nanos, he surrounds himself with his, you know, acolytes, his followers, anyone who doesn't, who isn't sort of on his side, or, you know, he can't take criticism, he can't take discussion. It's my way or the highway. He's told people he's micromanaging them. You know, he is a micromanager. It's just all about him, and I think this video shows that as well. All ego, all about him. It's whirring. Hopefully it'll come on. It'll start again in a moment. So it's whirring. Oh, don't whir. Why is it whirring? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Try stopping and starting it again. About fast forwarding or going back to the beginning. Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Chris Nanos. You're gonna be here a while.
Stay here with the rest.
Sorry, it looks like the last one of this stuff.
Get him hurt. No, got that on tape too.
It was above the belt, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, even better.
When they hold them up, you should pull the little pants up.
Look, as soon as he moves, they go. You know, he's like Putin, isn't he? He's got these sort of body. As soon as he moves, they all followed behind him. He's like, he's the king of his domain, isn't he? He's like King Dick, a small fish in a big, a big fish in a small pond.
I would like to welcome students, teachers, and staff back to school and have a safe and fun school year.
He's got that bad. He's got some warm up. Now he's not pushed, guys, because he's not tall enough.
I can't see a thing. Well, maybe I'll just go down there and investigate it myself. Wow, where am I? This doesn't look like Bcome County. Well, let's go there.
Oh my God.
Have a fun Halloween and stay safe, Bcome County.
I can't move his car. So yeah, so thank you, Criminal Network, for sharing that, because I found that very entertaining. Thank you. But also, you know, on a serious point, I think it gives a good insight into Sheriff Nanos's character, you know, and how he just his way of, it's all about him, isn't it? It's all about him. And I know he's the sheriff, and I suppose it's important, but it just seems so bizarre, those videos. I don't know. Anyway, so I want to show you that first, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out here this answer, if you like. So he's been accused of various things. I'm just going to put lots of windows down so that I've only got the windows that I need. I only need one window at the moment. Yeah, he's been accused of lying on his resume, of sort of influencing the election by bullying and making life difficult for his rival. Various things that he's been accused of. And he was in court. Well, he didn't actually appear in court. He sent this reply, which is a reply that's come through his solicitor or his lawyer. You know, he's lawyered up about it, and can't blame him in a way. So what I'm saying is, he obviously hasn't got any intentions of resigning voluntarily. He will not go until he's pushed. This guy, he's not going to jump. So this is what I'm going to read out to you, is the reply that came from the lawyer. So let's have a look. So I say it's quite long, so I'll tell you that now. You know, but if you want to listen to it in the background, you might. There'll be bits of it are more interesting than others. So again, I think it gives an insight into what's going on. And this comes from his solicitors or his lawyers, Fraser, Ryan, Goldberg, and Arnold LLP, and they are in Phoenix, Arizona. And this was issued on April the 21st, 2026. So that was yesterday. Gives their address, etc. So, dear Patricia and Mark, I have been engaged to represent Sheriff Chris Nanos. Oh, let me just make sure it's sharing, because you might know. There you go. In connection with the Pima County Board of Supervisors inquiry, detailed in your letter dated April the 7th, 2026. In the interest of promoting clarity and ensuring an accurate public record, Sheriff Nanos accepts the board's invitation to respond in writing. I have consulted extensively with Sheriff Nanos about the topics raised in your letter, and am authorized to provide the following responses on his behalf. So this is the really important bit, I think, the beginning of it, which is, well, all of it is important. So he goes through the different topics, the different things that Nanos has been accused of, the reasons why they're trying to get rid of him. Topic number 1, the sheriff's employment history. At the outset, allow me to note that ARS, I'm not even going to bother with the sort of numbers and initials and things like that. So does not authorize an unlimited inquisition. Rather, Sheriff Nanos is only obliged to report on those matters connected with the duties of his office. The sheriff's duties are defined by blah, blah, blah. They include keeping the peace, arresting and detaining those suspected of criminal activity, preventing and suppressing riots or insurrection, securing county courthouses, overseeing and operating the county jail, and effectuating service of process. That is all. So what he's going to say here is he's only obliged to declare certain things, isn't it? You know, this is just typical of his attitude, isn't it? Why don't you just say it was an oversight? I mean, he's not obviously going to say deliberately left these things out, but he could. He's not even acknowledging that he thinks anything was wrong about it. That's just typical of him, I think. The sheriff's statutory duties are distinct from those of a sworn peace officer. Oh, so different. Regulated by the Arizona Peace Officer Standards and Training Board. Okay. This distinction is significant because it confirms the sheriff's employment history is irrelevant to the performance of his duties as an elected official, subject to oversight by the Board of Supervisors. Oh, so he's saying it's got nothing to do with his role as a sheriff. Likewise, giving testimony in a civil lawsuit and managing the department's website are not among the duties of his office. Nevertheless, in the interest of transparency and the spirit of cooperation, the sheriff has authorized me to respond to the board's questions as follows. Oh my God. So basically what he's saying is, I don't have to reply. I don't have to even get involved in this, but I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a favor and doing this. 1. The circumstances of Sheriff Nanos' departure from the El Paso Police Department. Sheriff Nanos resigned from the El Paso Police Department in 1982. At the time of his resignation, he held the rank of corporal. His resignation came in the wake of a dispute with a supervisor over the towing of vehicles. The supervisor wanted to impose a 3-day suspension for insubordination. Gosh, that's ironic, isn't it? You're talking about a guy who will not accept any challenge. But he was challenging a supervisor. But he won't tolerate any challenges now himself, now that he's in now that he's in an elevated position, he won't tolerate insubordination. But when he was in a lower position, he was being subordinate. It's just typical, isn't he? Narcissist. Hi, Julie. Buenos dias. Hope you're well. He does have to go. The supervisor wanted to impose a 3-day suspension for insubordination, and Sheriff Nanos appealed that recommended discipline to the chief, who found in favor of the supervisor. Rather than accept a 3-day suspension, Sheriff Nanos offered to resign in lieu of discipline. The sheriff accepted his offer, and Sheriff Nanos resigned. 2. The sheriff's dates of employment as reflected in application materials, resumes, and prior testimony. All documents Sheriff Nanos submitted to the county when he applied show his dates of employment with the El Paso Police Department were from 1976 to 1982, which is accurate. For the board's reference, I have attached a copy of the resume Sheriff Nanos submitted as Exhibit 1. Some time ago, Nanos was alerted that the department's website incorrectly stated he was employed with the El Paso Police Department 1976 to 1984. Upon learning of the error, Sheriff Nanos immediately instructed staff to correct it. Oh, oops. Since then, all staff have been instructed that any biographical data about the sheriff included in public-facing communications must be reviewed for accuracy and approved by his office prior to publication. Also, he's blaming it all on them. It's all their fault. It wasn't him. The sheriff's prior... It's funny that, isn't it? Because he micromanages in everything, but what basically he's saying is he let his staff put out a wrong information on his website. He didn't micromanage that. Oh my God. 3. The sheriff's prior disciplinary history, including suspensions, First, I must reiterate that the sheriff's minimal disciplinary history is irrelevant to the performance of his official duties. Hasn't he been suspended 8 times? And then we've just heard there of another time where they were going to suspend him, but he resigned rather than be suspended. The sheriff was the subject of robust public scrutiny during the election, and the public record includes information about his decorated career as a sworn peace officer. Armed with this information, the voters of Pima County elected him as sheriff narrowly. So let's not forget as well, he only won by about 500 votes or something, less than 1,000, well, much less than 1,000. So it wasn't an overwhelming majority. And then, of course, people are accusing him of not fiddling the actual votes. They had to have a recount and that. But, you know, the person that was running against him, one of the things that he's being accused of is making it really difficult for them. So they are, you know, to try and win the election. But I think he addresses this in here. Armed with this information, the voters of Pima County elected him as sheriff. Whatever the sheriff did or did not do before being elected is necessarily unrelated to his performance of the duties of his office. Notwithstanding the impropriety of this question, the sheriff has authorized me to respond as follows. While employed with the El Paso Police Department, Sheriff Nanos was the subject of various disciplinary actions. These included counselling, reprimands and suspensions. That discipline and the actions that gave rise to it happened more than 4 decades ago. The sheriff has little specific recollection of these events. I don't agree with that at all. When you get reprimanded at work, especially suspended, or you remember it. I know it's a long time ago, but you know what? I worked at places I've worked long ago, and you know, if I've done something wrong, I mean, I'm a bit of a goody two shoes as far as work's concerned, and that. I'm trying to think if I ever got record, but I can remember incidents like, you know, I was always a little bit. I'm one of those people that, yeah, at work, bit of a goody two shoes, are a very hard worker, very conscientious. But, you know, if I was, like I remember once when I worked in the betting shops and the cleaner went off sick and my supervisor phoned me and said, oh, you'll have to do the cleaning. I said, I'm not doing the cleaning. I said, no way. You're talking about a betting shop, toilets, the men's toilets, you know, not nice. I said, I'm not doing it. That's not in my job description. I remember that. That was 40 years ago. And so the supervisor came and did the cleaning, you know. So I think you do remember things, whether it's 40 years ago or not. You're telling me he doesn't remember that he was suspended? Don't believe it. The sheriff has little specific recollection of these events. However, he notes that when he applied with the county in 1984, he was subject to a standard background check, which included completion of the county job application, interviews of his past employers, personal references, an oral interview, a psychological evaluation, and polygraph testing. Well, you know, any narcissist can pass a polygraph test. I found that out recently looking into polygraphs. The more narcissistic you are, the better chance you've got of passing it, because you don't respond to, you know, that you don't get nervous and those kind of things that can make people fail polygraphs. Quite often people fail polygraphs and they for no reason, just because they're nervous, and you know, and quite often people pass polygraphs, narcissists do anyway, because they can distance themselves. Moreover, before he became a certified peace officer in Arizona, His fitness to serve and employment history were thoroughly reviewed. At every step in the hiring process, the sheriff was truthful and forthcoming. Last, I am aware of media reports suggesting he was somehow dishonest in sworn deposition testimony he gave in the matter of Cross v. Nanos. Not so. In that deposition, the sheriff was asked, "Have you ever received discipline as a law enforcement officer?" And he responded, "Yes." In a follow-up question, he was asked, "Did you ever receive a discipline that rose to the level of a suspension?" And he responded, "No." Well, that's not true then, is it? But anyway, bad faith media reports have divorced this testimony from its context to suggest that Nanos was untruthful about his disciplinary history with the El Paso Police Department. But context matters, both immediately before and immediately after the question about whether he had ever been suspended. Sheriff Nanos was questioned about the Arizona Peace Officers' Bill of Rights. As you know, the Peace Officers' Bill of Rights details the substantive and procedural due process rights afforded to Arizona law enforcement officers. What? Listen, he was asked if he'd ever been suspended and he said no. You can talk around it as much as you want. That is a lie. That why doesn't he just admit it that he said it? Because I just don't understand what he's treating everyone as fools. Somebody asks you, "Have you ever been suspended?" Somebody asked me, "Have you ever been suspended in your work life?" Say no, because I haven't. You know what it means when they ask you. It is 100% correct that Sheriff Nanos was never suspended during his 4 decades of decorated and faithful service with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. However, he was suspended more than 40 years ago. Still suspended. It doesn't matter if 40 years ago or 50 years ago or 2 weeks ago, he was still suspended. So, let's get this into, if somebody asks you if you've ever been suspended, the answer is either yes or no. Now, then they might have gone into the criteria, why were you suspended? And they might have decided that he was, sometimes police officers are suspended while an investigation happens. Like if someone is shot in the course of an arrest, they may suspend that police officer while they look into the details. So it could, he could have gone into the reasons why he was been suspended. But the problem is, the reasons that he was suspended, they're not ones like that. He was suspended because he did things wrong. So he couldn't say that, I suppose. But sometimes police officers are suspended for investigations, aren't they? And then they're found, cleared, and then the suspension's lifted. But anyway. In the context of this live deposition, Sheriff Nanos did not understand the question. Oh, dear me. Related to discipline with a different agency not governed by the Arizona Peace Officers' Bill of Rights. In reviewing the transcript shortly after his deposition, Nanos spotted his misunderstanding and promptly notified his attorney. And for the board's reference, I have attached the relevant excerpt from the deposition transcript as Exhibit 2. So we'll have a look at that in a bit. Topic 2, the Lappin and Cross disciplinary actions. Before responding substantively, I must note that both Sergeant Cross and former Lieutenant Lappin have filed lawsuits against the sheriff in connection with the discipline they received following sustained findings of misconduct. Both lawsuits are ongoing. Because this topic touches on active litigation against the county, any discussion about it should take place in executive session. So he's really beleaguered, this sheriff. He's got accusations, lawsuits, recall attempts, but he's never going to step down. is just never, ever going to step down. The sheriff must be mindful of the impact his public statements in response to this inquiry could have on the litigation. I'm quite certain the board would not wish for the public nature of its inquiry to create potential liability for the county in these cases where none currently exists. In addition, personnel matters are typically confidential. It would not be appropriate to discuss the allegations or findings against former Lieutenant Lappin and Sergeant Cross, nor the department's internal investigative process in this public forum. Notwithstanding these considerations, the sheriff has authorised me to respond as follows. The disciplinary process for all Pima County employees, the police department employees, is noted in long settled county policy and well documented department policy and procedures. Both Sergeant Cross and former Lieutenant Lappin were suspected of violating department and county policy. So, it feels to me like Nanos doesn't think his suspensions were important, but he thinks it's important to suspend people. He's suspended people, and now they're fighting back against him. He doesn't like it, does he? Both Sergeant Cross and former Lieutenant Lappin were suspected of violating department and county policy. Consistent with long-standing department policy, those reports of misconduct were investigated by Internal Affairs and presented to the disciplinary review panel. The panel was comprised of members of the command staff, the legal advisor, members from the Citizens Advisory Review Board, and various department employee association members. After hearing the evidence, the panel unanimously sustained the complaints. As discipline, the panel recommended a letter of reprimand for former Lieutenant Lappin. I wonder, it's fair enough. He was backed up by the panel. Who was on the panel, I wonder, though? That's the only thing I'd say. But anyway, they're continuing with their lawsuits against him. So one way or another, that will come out in the wash. And a letter of reprimand for Lappin and termination for Sergeant Cross. Because the panel's recommended discipline for Sergeant Cross involved termination, it was reviewed by Sheriff Nanos per policy, and during that review process, Sergeant Cross provided a statement admitting he had violated policy as found by the panel, and he requested leniency. Specifically, Sergeant Cross asked the sheriff to issue a formal letter of reprimand in lieu of termination. Because Sergeant Cross appeared to be taking responsibility for his misconduct, Sheriff Nanos reduced the discipline from termination to a letter of reprimand over the objections of his command staff. Despite getting exactly what he wanted and heedless of his own admissions, Sergeant Cross immediately grieved the lenient discipline he received. Former Lieutenant Lappin likewise appealed. The twin grievances were submitted to County Human Resources Director Kathy Boland, and the Grievance Committee conducted an independent investigation of both disciplinary decisions. And following that independent investigation, the Grievance Committee recommended that the county administrator could uphold the discipline. So the county administrator adopted the recommendation and denied both grievances. Now, so from that then you would think maybe he was justified in this action, but they have taken lawsuits out against him, so we'll have to see what happens there. The implication that the discipline given to Sergeant Cross was somehow retaliatory or uneven is absurd and unfair. Sergeant Cross was disciplined as a result of a sustained finding that he violated the Hatch Act, whatever that is. Indeed, before any discipline was ever contemplated, Sergeant Cross was notified that his off-duty behaviour violated department policy and federal law. I wonder what he did. And was informally counselled on how to continue his protected speech activity without violating policy. Oh, I think this is someone who spoke out, isn't it? Sergeant Cross ignored that advice and continued to break federal law in violation of department policy. His conduct was reviewed by a diverse panel of independent fact finders who unanimously concluded he had violated the Hatch Act. Those independent adjudicators recommended he be terminated. In an abundance of generosity, and the good faith belief that Sergeant Cross had accepted responsibility for his actions, Sheriff Nanos granted his request for leniency and reduced his termination to a mere letter of reprimand. But in response, Sergeant Cross immediately reversed course, recanted his acceptance of responsibility, and grieved the discipline that he requested. Even before the committee rejected his grievance, Sergeant Cross filed a lawsuit. Any suggestion that Sheriff Nanos retaliated against Sergeant Cross by sparing him from termination, as his peers had recommended, blinks at reality. So, if that's true, I mean, it sounds plausible, doesn't it? Of course, we don't know really all the ins and outs of it. But I think, anyway, he's taken a legal action out against Sheriff Nanos. So will that go anywhere? Or maybe Nanos was right in that instance. Let me know what you think. So likewise, any suggestion of impropriety or an uneven application of departmental policy in connection with Lappin's disciplinary process lacks a basis in facts. Lappin was suspected of multiple violations of policy based on credible evidence. That evidence merited investigations. So in an abundance of caution and in keeping with the department policy, Lappin was placed on administrative leave with pay pending completion of the investigation. While on paid leave, Lappin was subject to precisely the same policies and requirements as any other department employee on administrative leave, although she was required to remain available during her normal working hours. Her freedom of movement was not restricted, subject only to long-standing departmental requirements governing paid administrative leave. Likewise, although she was ordered not to discuss the ongoing investigation consistent with department policy, she was free to engage in all other protected speech activity, including continuing to campaign against Sheriff Nanos. At the conclusion of the department's investigation, Lappin was given a letter of reprimand. The exact punishment the discipline review panel recommended. That discipline was upheld after review when County HR denied her grievance. To be clear, the allegations made by Lappin have been extensively litigated in both federal court and the court of public opinion. Well, we'll see. Former Lieutenant Lappin grieved her discipline and that grievance was denied. Lappin filed a lawsuit that has not resulted in any finding of wrongdoing by Nanos or the Sheriff's Department. The DOJ conducted a review and determined there was no evidence to support an investigation. Moreover, these allegations were reported on by local media exhaustively in the run-up to the 2024 election and were rejected by Pima County voters. Despite all this unrelenting scrutiny, there has never been a sustained finding critical of the department's discipline of former Lieutenant Lappin. That is no accident. Okay, so that's their answer for that. That's his answer for that. Any appearance of impropriety that resulted from Lappin's placement on administrative leave is the unfortunate result of a 2024, oh God, now is a 2024 changed county policy that allowed county employees to run for county office without leaving their jobs. Before 2024, employees vying for county office were placed on leave without pay to ensure that their political aspirations did not prevent them from doing their jobs, nor adversely affect the operation of their department. It is not surprising that the first election following this regrettable change in policy showcased the predictable ways in which active employees running for county office can adversely impact departmental operation. I'm just thinking, well, wasn't he running for office? Why was he not put on leave? Anyway, in order to strengthen current processes, the sheriff plans to meet with County Administrator Lesher to discuss amending county personnel policy to allow more once more allow candidates for county office to be placed on leave without pay until after the election. Wasn't he already working there, though? I don't understand why that applies to her and not to him. Topic 3, coordination with federal immigration officials. So, yeah, another issue. So, I was saying none of these issues are to do with Nancy. But is it because of Nancy's case that they've come to attention, or would they have come to attention anyway? Was it already heading down this road that Nanos was getting all these attention, or would, if the Nancy Guthrie case wouldn't have happened, would none of this ever happened? You know, I don't know whether they were heading this way anyway, because as I say, none of these issues is actually directly related to Nancy's case. Nanos must be thinking, bloody hell, why? Because he was just coasting along there, king in his own domain, and now all this is happening. You know, I expect he's not very happy, to be honest. Anyway, he needs to solve it then, doesn't he? Should have took the FBI's help. I think if he would have solved, you know, Nancy's case would get solved. And there wasn't, as I say, the thing that's brought all this to public attention, isn't it? Like, I wouldn't be talking about whatever was happening in Pima County. I wouldn't be talking about it here in Spain. You wouldn't all be interested in it. This is all about, we're interested in what's going on because of the cock-ups that Nanos has made in Nancy's case. And especially this, well, I think we cannot understand why he's not cooperating with the FBI. And he can say he isn't. You know, you can tell from the statements that were issued recently about the DNA. You know, you've got the FBI saying they've waited for that DNA for 8 weeks or something, over 8 weeks. Because he sent it to his favourite lab first. He's tried to cut the FBI out. He does FBI out. He doesn't want attention from the FBI. And, you know, you can, you know, make your own assumptions as to why he doesn't want to, want attention from the FBI. He's been investigated by them before. So he's got, you know, I think it's clear that there is an issue. He can say there isn't, but there is. Thing is, you have to look at what people do, not what they say. You know, you can say anything, but what did he do? Sent that DNA to his own lab and cut the FBI out of it for over 8 weeks. weeks. The FBI said they've been waiting for it, you know. So look at people, what people do, not what they say. Well, I've lost where I got to now. So yeah, topic number 3, yeah, coordination with federal immigration officials. So the department's interactions with federal immigration officials are primarily governed by blah, de, blah, de, blah, which can be found on the department's website, and the policies speak for themselves. Broadly, they confirm the following. Employees do not inquire about how a person entered the US unless that is a valid element of a criminal investigation. Now, unfortunately, politics do come into this, because Nanos, he is a Democrat, isn't he? So you presume, you know, I don't know, just because you're... Thing is, being a Democrat or a Republican, you know, America's a huge country with millions of people, and you can be a Democrat, but there's various shades of Democrat and there's various shades of Republican, isn't there? It's not just because you're a Democrat doesn't mean to say you believe this, and this. You know, Democrats argue amongst themselves, Republicans argue amongst themselves. But I think that is going to come into this, that's all. Employees do not inquire about immigration status while at a school unless there is a valid element of criminal investigations. They do not inquire about immigration status at all during consensual encounters with the public. Now, that's interesting, actually, because, you know, a lot of people, you know, if it's true that there's some Mexican connection with Nancy Guthrie, that's one of the theories, isn't it? Of course, a lot of people are scared to come forward because of maybe their immigration status or their family's immigration status. You know, they don't want attention, especially in, you know, today's climate in America of anti-immigrants, etc. But if, as it says here, they don't ask about immigration status, then that's sort of poo-poos that, doesn't it? Then people should be. But people, perhaps even though they know that policy, they still don't like to talk. People don't like to talk to the police if they're not entirely legal themselves. You know, not because they're murderers or drug runners, but just because their papers aren't in order. People don't want to, you know, put their head above the parapet, do they? Just in case. In addition, these policies govern the department's interaction and cooperation with federal law enforcement. They cooperate with federal law enforcement officials when necessary to ensure public safety or law enforcement officer safety. They do not participate in immigration checkpoints, except when necessary to enforce a state or local law. They will comply with international treaties inasmuch as such treaties require notification of a detention to be given to a foreign consulate. However, employees may not affirmatively inquire whether a detainee is a foreign national unless the detainee volunteers that information or the employee has reasonable grounds to suspect as much. Consistent with these policies, they no longer allow ICE to assign agents to the Pima County Adult Detention Center. The jail no longer accepts ICE detainers nor administrative warrants from ICE. In general, Sheriff Nanos has promulgated policies aimed at focusing their resources on ensuring public safety and enforcing state and local laws, rather than on federal immigration enforcement. So he's anti-ICE by the sound of it. That's one good thing about him, I suppose. Nevertheless, they remain committed in supporting its federal law enforcement partners when they may require assistance not directly related to immigration enforcement, such as situations involving public safety, e.g. search and rescue missions or officer safety. Now, the thing with that is, of course, as much as I've got no time for ICE whatsoever, their proximity to the border is probably maybe is a little bit too much the other way, because at the end of the day, if it is easy for people to get over the border, I mean, I don't know how easy it is really for people to get over. It's a big issue in America at the moment, immigration, etc. And it could be true. I do believe in immigration. I'm not against immigration, but I do believe also that people should be checked, and of course, especially if they've already got any, police history or whatever, that's essential. But, that's essential both ways. Because a lot of people, Americans, they pop over the border if they've done something wrong. First place, they go to Mexico, to escape justice. It happens both ways. So, of course, there should always be border checks for everyone, going from one, in that sense of criminal activity. The problem is, I suppose, because it's such a big place, America, and that border, it's a big border, isn't it? It's not just like, a couple of miles or whatever. It's hard to, monitor all of it, I suppose. But yeah, immigration, it's a hot potato, isn't it? It's a touchy subject for a lot of people. And as I say, I'm not a lover of ICE and that at all. But, maybe it's too much going the other way to not ask people at all. I don't know. Surely when you show your documents, you have to, when you get arrested, you have to show your documents, don't you? Whether you're, black, white, yellow, whatever. You have to show your documents, don't you? ID is essential, surely. If you get stopped. I know, the thing is, people can be funny about ID, but living in Spain all these years, ID is just first thing the police ask you for. Very first thing the police, whether they're stopping you for not wearing a seatbelt, speeding, whatever. First thing they'll ask for is your ID, and it is, illegal not to carry photo ID around with you. So you might have if you've not got residency in Spain, you have to carry your passport around with you, because if the Guardia Civil asks you to produce photo ID, which they will do if they stop, even if they stop you to say hello, they could say to you, oh, have you got your ID? It's just the way it is. Everything you do in Spain, you need your photo ID. It's how it is. So people don't argue about it. Don't think of it as a restriction of freedom. I mean, to me, it's a good way of keeping a check on what people are doing if they're doing something wrong. You just get used to it. So surely I mean, I don't know, because I don't live in America, and of course I know states are different, but surely you'd have to provide your ID anyway. So if you haven't got, would you know from someone's driving license if they had papers or not? Anyway, I don't know. So where are we? Nevertheless, they remain committed to supporting federal law enforcement partners when they require assistance not directly related to immigration enforcement, such as situations involving public safety, e.g. search and rescue missions or officer safety. Regarding communications with federal law enforcement agents like ICE or USBP, it should be noted that they operate a public safety answering point and regularly receive calls from members of the public, including undocumented immigrants, that implicate possible violations of state or local law and public safety concerns. Whenever they receive calls that involve immigration enforcement, Per policy, those calls are routed to ICE or whoever may be appropriate. This is consistent with Sheriff Nanos' policy of leaving immigration and border enforcement to federal law enforcement. And given Pima County's close proximity to the southern border, the volume of calls received at the PSAP, but immediately transferred to federal counterparts is significant, perhaps more than 5,000. So I'm not going to read all that about I'm not, because there's quite a lot of it and it's probably similar. Let's see if I can try and pick out the most important bits. Just make sure you're all okay. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything. Right. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I think I've got to read this. So because it became a topic of interest, the sheriff has asked me to address certain statistics in furtherance of his support for Operation Stone Garden. The sheriff's predecessor, instructed his staff to track the number of calls received related to immigration or border enforcement. That data was then compiled into monthly summaries provided to Sheriff Napier, that's the sheriff before. But once Nanos took office, he instructed communication staff to stop providing those monthly reports to him, which they did. However, unbeknownst to Sheriff Nanos, staff continued to track the contents, but did not provide summaries, so he's thrown his staff under the bus again. When Nanos learned that the department was still tracking accounts, he ordered that the practice be discontinued. And the PCSD is working closely with the ACLU to locate and provide the public records sought in the lawsuit, which includes the tracking data. Okay, so what he's saying is the previous sheriff used to ask for all this data. He came into office, he just said to them, I don't want this data anymore, stop doing it. But unbeknownst to him, they carried on doing it. And now he's looking for this data. Yeah, but there's a lot of things hidden at his sheriff's office. That's why he won't resign as well, in my opinion. He's not going to resign because that means somebody else is going to come in and start looking closely at everything he's been doing. He won't want that because there'll be things that he shouldn't have been doing, in my opinion. So, PCSD is the only agency in Arizona that has declined to mandate its deputies are certified, which refers to the program that allows local law enforcement agencies to enforce certain aspects of federal immigration law. Under the Trump administration, this decision has made them ineligible for most federal law enforcement grants. So he's blaming it on Trump now. Now, of course, if Nanos is a Democrat and Trump, the Trump administration has threatened to defund certain states, hasn't it? I don't know how true this is, but this is what he's saying. So he's saying that he's not getting enough money now to. It's presented fiscal challenges in the department. However, this step was taken in furtherance of his desire to ensure the PCSD is laser focused. That laser focused, whenever people say that, I always think that means they're not taking any interest in it whatsoever. It's one of those expressions that go on, we're laser focused to justice, or we're laser focused to this. I always think, yeah, that means you're just not bothering. Just one of those, it's like lip service, isn't it? Anyway, according to him, they're laser focused on their mission of enforcing state and local laws and ensuring public safety. He intends to promote public awareness of these policies in a variety of ways, These include publishing the policies on the department's website, participating in community events, engaging with local neighbourhood watch programmes, and speaking with the media. Oh, yeah. He hasn't done a bloody news conference about Nancy for months. Not a proper one. Anyway, never mind. Yeah, he does everything that comes out. I'm trying to sort of read it objectively, but I'm finding it difficult. Topic 4, management of the department's budget. The board's question unfairly implies that Nanos has failed to properly manage the department's budget. Now, of course, this is what the FBI was investigating him for before, impropriety with budgets. Not so. This is not so. 3 of the last 5 fiscal years, the department has performed under budget. In the 2 years, department expenditures exceeded its budget. The overruns were minimal. And under the sheriff's management, the department spent just 95.87% of its budget over a 5-year span. And the figures below prove the sheriff's sound fiscal management. It gives you the budgets and the actual expenditures. And yeah, so his claim was under budget. But so what years were over budget? So he was over budget he was under budget in 21, 22, 23. He wasn't in charge then, was he? Anyway, if he was. So 21, 22, they were under budget. 23, they were over budget. 24, they were under budget. Why are the budgets changing so much? The actual budgets are quite different, but anyway. And then in 2025, they were over budget. So all over, they are 4.13% over budget. I'm not brilliant with figures, but anyway, the thing is, budgets, any of you have ever, budgets tend to not work out perfectly. It's hard to keep things exact to budget, whatever, you know it from your household expenses. But I don't normally, when you do a budget, I mean, I'm not a bloody accountant, but I presume they have proper accountants that do these budgets. Don't you, so you have your budgets of things that you know that you're going to have to pay, your definite things, and then don't you have a surplus? So wouldn't you then have because of course, you set a budget at the beginning of the year, January, say, you don't know what's going to happen in that year, do you? I mean, there's all sorts of anomalies that can happen. I mean, look at this year. We didn't know we were going to all be paying so much more for our petrol because the orange one in the White House decided to, attack Iran. And we didn't know that in January. If you'd made a budget in January, for the petrol that you normally use, and you put that in your budget, I'm talking about just a basic household budget. Then next thing, poof, petrol goes through the roof, your budget's out the window. Now, you might not have your surplus or your whatever you'd set aside for anomalies, like your car might break down, your computer might blow up. I mean, all these things have happened to me this year already. It's only bloody April. You might not you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you might have a couple of hundred in your budget that you think just in case, I get a flat tire or in case my computer. I mean, I don't do. You may have gathered I'm crap at budgets. I sound quite authoritative. As I'm saying this, I'm thinking, why didn't I do that in January? I've never done a budget. Never done a budget for home expenses and things. But it's a good idea to do it, really. At least get some idea of what you've got to face, your electricity bills. Like the thing is, here in Spain this year, we've had this terrible winter. So my electric bills have been double what they normally are. So these are all anomalies, aren't they? And you should have a little bit, I suppose, when you make a budget, you should have, you know, a bit of extra. I'd say, right, whatever your budget comes to for the year, add on another 1,000 just in case for those other things that can go wrong. But of course, some things you can never predict. Didn't know there was going to be a war. Didn't know petrol was going to go up. You know, didn't know my computer was going to blow up. But what I'm trying to say is, but these sort of things, budgets for work like this, surely that it is accountants that do it, isn't it? Anyway, according to this guy, who's speaking on behalf of Nanos, sound fiscal management. The repeated instances mentioned in your letter is an apparent reference to monthly reports given to the board by the Finance Office. These monthly reports have been provided to the board for several decades as a tool to help the department and county officials forecast future expenses and revenue. Despite the sheriff's success over the span of his tenure, there are 2 years where the department exceeded budgetary projections. The first was a 0.84% overrun in 2023, and this should not surprise anyone because the budget was set before the board approved a pay rate increase for more than 400 corrections employees. And once the board accounted for that increase, the department's budget was increased. Okay, so yeah, things can happen, but as I say, I would have thought you'd have some sort of extra money in an official budget like this just in case. Anyway, so I'm not going through all that. So the conclusion is, after the past 3 years, over the past 3 years, the department has operated at a net surplus, even without accounting for the 6 whatever in surplus returned in 21 and 22. Okay. So the raw data, according to the solicitor, speaks for itself and attests to the sheriff's sound fiscal management. No explanation or justification is needed. But make no mistake, from a funding perspective, the department is fighting for the residents of Bcome County with one hand tied behind its back. So there you go. So it's a bit of a whinge about they're not getting enough. They have a bit of a whinge then going on that they're not getting enough funding. The sheriff remains committed to operating within budget despite the challenges. But of course, we have to mention that the department is not immune from volatility in the consumer economy. They face significantly increased food costs, ever rising fuel prices. Only 20% of the sheriff's budget is allocated for supplies and services. Yeah, the motor pool, comprised of more than 650 vehicles that require constant maintenance, run on gas, which now costs an average, I mean, gas has certainly gone up, 4.46 a gallon for unleaded and 5.85 a gallon for diesel. The historic spike in fuel prices was not something the board could have foreseen, that's true. Maybe they need to stop sending these cars out to talk to streamers outside Nancy's house. Maybe they could save, save a bit of money that way. Maybe they could get these streamers, phone them or something and say whatever they want to say to them. Why they're going out every time Sue Ellen rings up and reports a streamer? She's wasting Bcome County resources. Somebody needs to maybe tell her that, so there's always ways you can cut back, isn't there? And one of them would be not keep having to go out for stupid complaints against people who aren't doing anything illegal. Okay, so we'll whiz down. So anyway, he says his performance is the result of hard decisions, delaying or deferring valuable deputy or corrections training academies, hiring freezes, limiting purchases. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but I wonder what if you looked at the actual what things are being spent on. But anyway. So in conclusion, the sheriff appreciates this opportunity to answer the board's questions and to document his tireless efforts. Sorry, he's just so full of himself, isn't he? To document his tireless efforts to protect and serve the people of Pima County. Serving as sheriff is a great honour, and he looks forward to achieving even greater success for the department and the public servants who fulfil its mission every day through their hard work and dedication. If the board requires further information or would like to follow up on the topics discussed in this letter, please contact me and I will work with the sheriff to provide an appropriate response. So that is Nanos's reply. Now let's have a little look at the exhibit. So this is his CV, I think. This is his resume in 1984. That's there. What I'll try and do, in fact, I think I'll post this, because then, if you want to, I'm not going to read out every single thing that's on it, but if you want to see the nuts and bolts of the document, what I'm going to do is post the link to the document now in the description box of this video, and we'll have a little quick look down it and decide what's more relevant for me to read out, but I'm not going to read every single thing out. Let me just post it in the chat. I'm going to post it in the chat, but I'm also going to put it in the... This is the link to the actual document. Let's see. But I'm going to put it in the description box as well, because, yeah, if you want to look through the exhibits, all of them in more detail, I'll say I am going to look down them, but I won't read out every single one. I'm just trying to upload the video so I can just add it into the description box. Link to document. There you go. Put it in the description box as well of this video. So if you do want to, look into all the details of it. So meanwhile, we're on his resume. So his hobbies are, what the hell's that? Oh, is that boxing? Can't read that first one. I think it's boxing, fishing, pool, and physical exercises. Physical exercise. What the hell? Oh, crosswords. So boxing, fishing, pool, crosswords, and is this his writing? Is this actually his writing? It's quite, I'm sure a writing analysis would, or is that a font? I don't know. Anyway, very strange. Yeah. So he goes into his details there on his, this is the resume that he's said to have lied on, isn't it? Goals and objectives: to advance further in the field of law enforcement, utilizing my present knowledge and skills mixed with the maturity and wisdom that I have attained in the past 2 years. Sorry. Why am I laughing? I shouldn't be laughing. Sorry. My main goal is to be chief of police with the realization that you must set certain objectives in order to attain certain goals. They've got his work experience, etc., and his education, commendations, special achievements. While performing for the El Paso Police Department. Performing? That's a funny thing to say, isn't it? While performing. In the uniformed something division, I led all other patrolmen on my shift in every statistical category ever kept for numerous years. These statistics were kept daily and exist in total number of felony and etc. something arrests, total number of subjects and vehicles checked. But this font is so difficult. I presume this is a font rather than his writing. I don't know, but bloody difficult to read, that's for sure. Total number of calls made and handled, and even the number of field contacts made. Also, I helped initiate the opening of the department's first youth service division. On September the 29th, 1979, I saved my partner's life while he was being held hostage at gunpoint by a would-be burglar. Oh, that's very good. During my 6.5-year tenure with the El Paso Police Department, I also received over 30 letters of commendation, ranging from such people as the mayor, the chief of police, other police department supervisors, and the general public as well. In fact, that many letters in that short of time is like averaging a letter of commendation once every 2 months. And yet in my first 2 months on the floor at the Pima County Adult Detention Center, I've already received a letter of commendation for professionalism and efficiency while in the performance of my duties. I also graduated from the Pima County Sheriff's Department Corrections Officers Academy with 93.2% GPA and topping the class in physical fitness and defensive tactics. He's really into his physical fitness. Now, I've got to say, he is an elderly man, isn't he? And but yeah, you can see that he is fit. You definitely got to give him that. He's a very fit guy. Exhibit 2. Maybe I can read this better without my glasses. So what's Exhibit 2? Oh, this is deposition of Sheriff Nanos in this. Oh, right. So this, I think what I might do on another video, I'm not going, because this has already been quite a long video, but if I might sort of split it off into these exhibits, like, because that'd be interesting, that actual deposition, the actual script of the deposition, but too much to read out at the moment. Yeah, maybe read the exhibits out in a separate video if people are interested, which, oh, that's it. That's the last one. Yeah, maybe read those out in another video. So what do you make of it all? What do you think about Sheriff Nanos? Hey, Lily. Yeah, sorry, you're probably going to have to go a bit on catch up here because I'm nearly, well, I have finished now, but I'm just going to stay on a minute and just have a little chat. What do we make of Nanos? And do you agree? Do you think that if Nancy's case wouldn't have come up, do you think that Nanos would have just carried on king in his own domain? Just surrounding himself with yes men and women? Or was this brewing anyway? And as the Nancy Guthrie case, just brought it to a head, but would it always have come up, do you think? Is there enough people with grievances against Nanos? The thing is that, I'd like to give Sheriff Nanos the benefit of the doubt, and then reading that he saved his partner's life and he's had all these commendation letters. I'm sure he's, done some really good things during his career. The thing that makes me feel like probably is justified what's said about him is nobody's speaking up for him. I mean, all right, that letter was from his solicitor, but don't forget, that letter, that's from his solicitor under Nanos's instructions. So the only positive things we've heard about Nanos have come from Nanos. Where's his where's the people snuffing and saying, oh no, we've heard from it for him, for example, and saying, oh no, he's really good. I mean, somebody rang into one of the streams I was listening to who said they used to work there, and what was it? There was somebody, can't remember. Yeah, so somebody who was originally going to stand for sheriff, for whatever reason, in the end couldn't stand for sheriff, recommended Nanos, and then when Nanos became sheriff, he turned on him. I do think that Nanos has got in his little world, his little kingdom, his little reign, that his realm, that he's king of all his surveys, and he's a micromanager. He's not one of those people who just say he's a micromanager, but then when things go wrong, what does he say? Oh, I didn't know anything about that. But he micromanages everything. I don't believe him. He and he wouldn't like this comparison, but he reminds me of Trump, because that's what Trump will do. He sort of leaves it all, and then when things go wrong, he blames it on. He's even blamed things on Caroline Levitt and on Marco Rubio, and then he'll sack people and blame it all on them. But to be fair to Trump, I really do think doesn't take much notice of what the people that work for him do until things go wrong, and then suddenly he looks at them and thinks, oh, hang on a minute. Whereas I do think that Nanos, he does take notice of what they all do, but still, when things go wrong, he blames it on them. And it was their fault that the website was wrong with the dates he'd worked at the other place. It's their fault that he was still getting that they carried on doing the data about the immigration, etc. things. It's all his staff's fault, even though he's a micromanager. Nothing will go right. When things go wrong for him or he gets pulled out on things, he throws somebody else under the bus. That's probably why no one's speaking out in his defence. He won't get people to speak out in his defence, will he? When they've been thrown under the bus for whatever reason. But surely he must have people in his inner circle who think he's the dog's going out. I don't know. Some must think he's brilliant. I mean, but nobody, you don't, because I know that on a lot of the streamers, they've said, if somebody wants, and I'm saying it, if somebody is out there and is watching this and getting angry with me because I'm talking about Sheriff Nanos in a negative way and they think, no, he's great, come on, or send me an email, I'll read it out. If you don't want to actually come on, tell me that he's brilliant, why he's the good that he's done. I'd like to hear that Sheriff Nanos is brilliant from someone other than Sheriff Nanos, because then, because anyone I can sit here and tell you how fabulous I am, but, some people think I'm fabulous and other people think I'm crapo, I know that. But with Nanos, you feel like everybody's negative about him. You'll always get some people who don't like you. You can't please everybody. Get that with any leader. It's There'll be some people who'll be happy with him. Well, you would. This is what I'm saying. You'd think there'd be some people that were happy with him. Where are these people? Why aren't they speaking out in his favour? You know, for anybody else who gets criticised, there's normally some supporters at least. You know, people probably out there criticising me, but I know I've got some supporters. I've got quite a lot, actually. So that's good, you know, and I'm not vain enough to think that everybody's got to think I'm great. And even the people who think maybe I'm great, I expect they don't agree with me, everything I say. I don't expect that. You know, it's fine. Just like I don't agree with everything. This is what goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. You can still like a podcaster, a streamer, whoever, even though you maybe don't agree with everything they say. Just because then they come on you know, for me personally, when I'm watching YouTubers and that, if they start talking about something that I don't agree, I don't even say it, you know, I don't go on and make a comment normally. I don't, unless it's, you know, very rare for me, to be honest, to go and make a comment. I just think, well, that's their opinion. They're entitled to it, and it's their stream anyway. So, you know, it's like, it's not my stream, you know, so they can say whatever the hell they want on their own stream. And yeah, I could agree with someone 9 times, 9 things that they say, and then the 10th thing I might think, well, I don't know, I agree with that, but I'm not going to then unsubscribe, or, you know, that wouldn't be a reason for me ever to. There are some reasons that I've unsubscribed to streamers, but they're more serious than that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe for their, you know, some activities that they've been that they've done that they shouldn't have done, but never for their opinions. I'm never going to unsubscribe from someone because they've got a different opinion to me. You know, never. The only reason is if they're, you know, there's something really offensive or whatever, maybe. But yeah. Okay, so don't forget to let me know what you think about Sheriff Nanos. This is an ongoing thing now. That's his reply. Don't know really what the next step is. I suppose they'll assess that, and it's all carrying on. I would like to see the back of Sheriff Nanos, because I do think he's dealt wrongly with the Nancy Guthrie case. I think Nancy and her family have suffered from his, I don't know if it's even incompetency or his bullheadedness, really, not to accept help from the FBI, etc. I just really think that any sheriff's department surely you know, we've got a lot of crime going on, haven't there? A lot of things going on there in Tucson and that, well, in Pima County. And then you've got this huge case of an elderly woman being abducted, and her daughter is a famous TV news anchor, so it's attracted all this attention. Also because of the mystery of it and the horribleness of it. And you're stretched. You're saying how stretched your police department is. Can't keep up with everything that's going on. You know, trying to struggle with budgets. You've got the petrol increases, all these things. The FBI says, well, Trumpy said he could take all the resources of the FBI that you needed, and he's not using them. It's like sending his stuff to that lab in Florida. That will have cost money, surely. I'm sure they're not doing it free, but wouldn't the FBI do it for free? I just don't understand that. I just feel that if I was a sheriff who had nothing to hide, of course, and the FBI wanted to help out in a case I was dealing with, I would be like, yes, please. Please, come and help. We need your help because we're out at the house every day because the neighbours are complaining we have to send 3 police officers now. So I don't mean that. That, again, that's the next thing that I would stop. If I was a sheriff, let's have a little I'm a sheriff game. I know I'm not, but I'd like to be in some ways. First thing I'd be saying is to these neighbours, phoning up every 5 minutes, so there's a streamer get used to it. They're not doing anything illegal. Stop ringing. Stop wasting our precious resources. We want to be out there stopping people from abducting you in the middle of the night. We don't want to be just running there 3 times a day to tell the streamer off. That's the first thing I'd do in this case. Tell those neighbours, unless they're doing anything actually illegal, trespassing, or I don't know, smoking weed outside your door or whatever, just don't phone us. Get on with your lives. That's the first thing I'd be doing if I was a sheriff, as far as this case is concerned anyway. Hi, Darren. And then everything the FBI offered to help with, I'd be just saying, here you go, thank you. Yes, please let us know as soon as you know anything. But, you feel like Nanos, he doesn't want to give the FBI any credit. I'd also be doing press conferences, not every day. There's only a limited amount of information they can give out, isn't there? But one thing that they can do is dispel information that's wrong. So when they see things like, I don't know, there's so many things being said, I think they could come on once a week and just reiterate what they have been able to say, that and say Nancy's still missing. Have another look at this video of who we think is the perpetrator, and anything they don't know when they open. They don't even have to do questions at the end, to be honest. You don't even need to do questions. But let's suppose they did questions and people are going to ask the same things over and over again like they do. It'd be like, are those 2 photos of the perp, are they from different days? Just repeat what you said before. We can't release that information, or we don't know that information. You don't have to. The good press conferences I've seen in following true crime for all these years, the good press conferences are not the ones that they even give you the most information. They're the ones that they're as honest as they can be. They say, if I can't answer that, I'm sorry, I can't answer that, or we don't know that yet, or that's part of the investigation. You don't have to do a press conference and, talk about your whole case. He won't do a press conference because he doesn't want to be on stage with the FBI. That's what I believe. He did that one with the FBI there in the background. Since then, he's only done his personal little ego-driven interviews with individual reporters, and he hasn't done a full-blown press conference for months. He could do with doing one with the FBI there. Just half an hour, just where we are with this case, what we can tell you, even if it's say we're no further on. Say something. That's my opinion anyway, and maybe the thing is, it's not working what he's doing. Even he must realise what he's done so far. Let's just put this picture up. What he's done so far, it's not working. In the eyes of the public don't feel comforted, do they? They don't feel like they're on top of everything. And this with the DNA and him saying, we've worked with the FBI from day one. And then the FBI saying, we've waited 11 weeks for this DNA. The public aren't stupid. Yeah, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? I don't know about you, but I've watched, I'm always looking at this picture and I thought that it could, I don't know who it is. It's not someone I know, obviously, but, I know people are going, because they can complain about social media all the time, but people have gone over and over and over the videos, the pictures, examined every little aspect of who this person could be. They're doing, they're sort of, at least they're doing something, streamers and what have you. I still can't move past this person a little bit. I'm just Why is he so different when you did this interview from how he was a couple of years ago? Yeah, he shaved, cut his hair. Let's have a look at that picture again. But of course, he was detained and he was released. There is no evidence, or that we know of. So, looking at this picture, do you think there's a curly hair under there? Do you think that's curly hair under there? I still think the eyes have got makeup around them. I don't. It's not the eyes themselves. It's the black lines around them. That's when he reminds me. You know, then it always makes me think about the Charlie Chaplin thing. The black, you know, this eyeliner. Maybe it just looks like eyeliner because of the lights, the way the lights are, but it just looks, you know, it's not the lashes. It looks like literal eyeliner to me. I still think the scene was staged. I don't know if how they got in, how they got out, what that blood was. It's all so confusing, isn't it? Who propped open the back doors with the plant pots? I don't believe it was Nancy, because I think if you lived in an area like that where there's jabalinas and coyotes and God knows, and rattlesnakes, I don't think you would leave your doors open at night when you went to bed. You might have them open in the day when you know, around and you can see what's going on. But I don't believe you would go to bed and leave your back doors open like that, knowing that some, you know, apart from people, some animal could come in, you know, and I just don't think you would. How could you sleep knowing that a bloody rattlesnake might come in, or a jabalina, or a coyote? You know, that there's all those critters around there. So, well, as I always say when I'm talking about Nancy Guthrie, maybe today, hey, maybe today will be the day that we get some proper news. Let's just have a look. I don't think anything's happened overnight, or as far as I know. If anything does happen, I've got a day of getting my car sorted out today, but let's see. Yeah, do you know what? When you Google Nancy, all that comes up is ex-FBI agent says, retired FBI agent says, ex-law enforcement says. Just people talking about their theories. It's just that they've got some experience in, you know, law enforcement or in the FBI or whatever, but they're still only talking about their theories, just like everybody else. There was a bit of news, wasn't there, that the lab, what was it, the lab behind the Gilgo Beach serial killers. So it says mystery widens as the lab behind the Gilgo Beach serial killers conviction now linked to the probe. So this is San Francisco lab. The lab Astrea Forensics played an instrumental role in cracking the Long Island serial killer case and is now believed to be involved in the search for answers into the alleged abduction of Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona. So, yeah, because of course it was, there was DNA found, wasn't it, on the pizza box, and there were hairs found. And the defense in that tried to sort of have that DNA evidence thrown out of court, which failed. Rootless hair samples. You know, this is a very new thing, isn't it? These rootless hair samples. Before we could only use, well, not we, not us, but, you know, these labs, if there was a root attached to it, but now there's been an advancement. There's advances, you know, the DNA is just advances all the time, doesn't it? Yeah, so it says, so this is C.C. Moore who said this. I'm pretty confident that they will want to use the lab they've been extremely successful with, which is Australia. And that's C.C. Moore, one of the nation's leading genetic genealogists. As she said, they've been working to refine their own rootless hair analysis. So the Florida lab that the examples were first sent to haven't had any successful cases yet. So, but now the Federal Bureau of Investigation has taken custody of the materials, and according to her, Australia Forensics, which is the lab that helped in the Gilgo Beach case, could be among the specialised private labs who are under consideration to assist in the case, because they've been very successful, and apparently the FBI used them for the Gilgo case and have a lot of confidence in Australia. So, you know, Nanos has had confidence in that his own lab that he always uses. Remember, he said that, didn't he? Well, this is the lab we always use. You know, regardless of the fact whether, you know, maybe advancements have moved on beyond this lab. Look, when you get, I'm trying to think of a correlation, you know, thing in real life. It's like, well, like you take my car, that I've had these problems with my car. And there are some garages that specialize, you know, there's a garage that I would always go to for a tyre repair because I know they're very good. That's what they specialize in. Flat tires, trying to repair them. First of all, if they can't repair, they've always got if it can't be repaired and I need a new tire, they've always got tires in stock of like your basic models and things. So I would always go to them for a tire to get, and that's where I went recently. And I had a flat tire. I took my spare, you know, we had that changed. And then, of course, I've got flat tires as spare tires. So I took it to them to get it repaired. Sometimes garages, they're good with, I don't know, regassing air conditioning or diagnostics. I mean, I took my car to a local garage yesterday because of that warning light that was coming on telling me to stop. You know, positive, what was it? Possible motor hazard stop. So I went to a local garage. Well, because I wasn't supposed to drive it, so I didn't want to drive. I would have gone to that garage with the tyres because they probably would have been able to sort it for me. But I know they're not very good at diagnostics. They're not good. I mean, my car's an old car, but it is one of those where things are on diagnostics. They're not, you know, I wouldn't think of them as experts for that. So somebody had told me about a local garage right here in the village. So I went there and asked them if they could look at it for me. They were brilliant. They sorted it. You know, it's another 100 and odd euros to fix it, but at least it's fixed. I can drive it again. Now they do gassing of aircon, so I might go there because mine needs doing for the summer. Just another thing, you know. You know. So what I'm trying to say is, you don't just keep going to the same garage because that's the one you've always gone to, even though they're crap at gassing aircon maybe, or they can't do diagnostics. But it's where I've always gone, so I'm going to go there. You just wouldn't do it, would you, in anything? You go to the place that is best for your needs. And he sent those samples to the Florida lab because that's what he's always done. That will have cost the Bcome County taxpayer money, wouldn't it? Instead of just giving it to the FBI and letting them deal with it. You know, everyone knows they've got the most advanced technology. So they can do you know, they can either do it themselves at their lab or they've got people to work with. Like the Gilgo Beach, a successful conviction there from rootless hairs. You know, this is Nanos's problem. He's stuck in his ways He just didn't want to give the FBI credit, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And he should really have let them deal with it right from weeks ago. So there's weeks gone by. And I tell you, if it turns out that then something comes of this DNA analysis, I mean, it may be that nothing will come of it. So we don't know that this hair belongs to the perpetrator. It's a hair. Could be anyone's, couldn't it? But anyway, they've sent, at least it's in the right place now. But in the meanwhile, months have gone by, haven't they? Okay, so I will see you later, maybe. If not, tomorrow, any news comes up, I will be back. Thank you for watching. Please remember to leave your DNA on the like button and your fingerprint on the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you.